Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you yet another installment of Sentai Origins, presented by Hirotaku.com. And Raptor, how you doing today, man?
Oh man, I'm doing great. I was at the gym just before I got here, so I'm great.
Good. Well, Raptor, we went ahead and just watched the first episode of Dynaman.
Yeah, which was surprisingly difficult to find.
Yeah, for those of you who are not aware, Dynaman was actually turned into a parody that aired on USA Network in the 80s. And for a show that was only on for a few episodes at like 1 a.m. on USA Network, those are easier to find than the first episode of a television show in a popular franchise in Japan. So needless to say, it took us forever to go ahead and find it. And even when we did find it, the quality was very poor. And I don't know who did the subs, but those subs were off.
Yeah, the subbing wasn't that stellar either. I'm not fluent in Japanese by any means, but even from the little bits I know, I could tell that they were asleep at the wheel.
Well, in any case, we've got a chance to go ahead and watch it. And just before we go ahead and talk about the episode, Dynaman first aired February 5th, 1983 in Japan. The series was originally going to be called V-Leaguer because, as you can tell based on the costumes, they were going to be based off of a baseball motif. But for various reasons, that was scrapped, and they decided to go with Dynaman.
With a science and technology theme.
Or in some cases, explosion theme.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and get to that. But the plot of the episode is pretty much basic. A natural disaster happens because of an evil empire rising from the earth, and then 5 people are selected to be the Dynaman. But it's actually a little bit more complex than that. The way the episode starts is, first of all, it starts with the explanation about the volcanoes and all that, which, again, with these early Sentais is very brutal because we see a bunch of hikers and we see some of them fall into
lava, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, I just can't get over it. The more we go, the more we see. It's just like, wow, it has come such a long way, and it had an interesting start to it.
Yeah.
But the episode actually begins proper with a bunch of people being trapped in, I believe, as you call them, Raptor, giant jawbreakers.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yes, and the guy who eventually became the Red Ranger witnesses this, and he and the Pink Ranger, who shows up out of nowhere, chase him.
Yeah, she literally shows up out of nowhere and hops on the back of his motorcycle.
Yes.
And just tells him to go.
Yes. And then they chase him. And what's actually interesting is that as they're chasing the villains, the other Rangers are witnessing this chase, and they give chase as well. So ultimately, what happens is that the 5 Rangers get together because they were all trying to save these people who were on the same road, which is kind of interesting. It's one of those, like, if I didn't go out today, I wouldn't have been the Blue Ranger kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And of course, even more interesting at this point is they actually end up fighting humans, or at least we think they're humans to begin with.
Yeah, we see Black fighting what looks like actual humans. They just look like guys, regular guys in black outfits.
Which is also interesting when he throws a throwing star in the guy's neck.
Yeah, it was very strange considering that in the previous series they were just fighting robots.
Yeah, so the show really starts with very little to go on. They rescue the people, they fight the humans, and they turn out to actually be in disguise that they're actually
lizardmen.
Yeah, or I don't know. They were like tailed people and all that, which is a very underdramatic name or undramatic.
I'm sure it sounded better in Japanese.
Yes, but they eventually fight against the crab monster, and they get thrown into the ocean. And then after the commercial break, they're all fine. This is actually a weird thing because they fight the crab monster, get thrown into the ocean. Then we cut to our villains, who, by the way, which is actually, and you pointed this out during the viewing, they look a lot like Japanese shoguns.
And yeah, and also I forget his name. What was the name of the guy's son?
The prince.
Yeah, the prince. He has some very samurai-esque views on family.
Yeah, there's definitely that feudal, how you pronounce it? Feudal piety?
Filial piety.
Filial. Okay, I can't pronounce anything Japanese or
Yeah,
any
the
of
prince
English.
feels indebted. Well, not indebted, but he feels like he must be loyal to his father and offers to go out and slay the Dynaman who would try to interfere with their plans.
Yes, and even the villains definitely have a shogun look to them, and even the prince rides out on a horse, which actually leads to a very cool battle sequence between the Red Ranger and the prince.
Yeah, and so then we have the future Dynaman being led to a kindergarten.
No, it's a toy store, I think.
Oh.
I think it looks like a toy store because it has toys all over the place and all that.
But it's actually a secret laboratory.
Yes, as they all are.
Exactly.
Every toy store is a secret laboratory. And of course, they're told briefly what's going on and everything, that another enemy has risen from the ground and is going to go ahead and take over. And you guys, I found you at random. Why don't you be the Dynaman? Which I think is the funniest thing, is like it is so
It
random.
happens over and over in these early Sentais.
Yeah, but at least in the other ones that have at least reasons, like they were part of government organizations, or the Denzi dog at least kind of could read their minds or something. I mean, the only thing that really justifies these guys for being Dynaman is that they helped out, and they all had unique skills at least.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, the Black Ranger is really cool because he's got like that ninja stuff that we'll eventually see in Hurricaneger.
And Kagaku Ranger.
Absolutely, but he's doing like the earth swimming and the high jumping and all this fun stuff.
Yeah, he's tossing shurikens. And yeah, he was the most fun to watch prior to gaining the powers.
Even when he was morphed, he had those cool ninja things.
Yeah.
The rest of the episode is pretty much an action-oriented thing. There's very little story going on. They're just they do the morph. They fly in their base, which, and as we pointed out, their first combat is actually aerial combat between the villain's flying fortress, which looks like a dragon in a way, or some sort of demonic creature, and then their base in interesting sky combat.
Yeah.
Which we don't really see a lot nowadays, I think. I mean, we'll see in first or second episodes sky combat with some of the flying Zords, Ghost Ranger being the most recent one I can think of. But beyond that,
there's also Gokaiger.
Well, yeah.
Gokaiger was leaping around in space, attacking.
Yeah, but I mean, like, aerial dogfighting is something we really don't see in Sentai anymore. And in a lot of these early seasons, they kind of start out with that a lot.
Yeah, and it was refreshing to watch.
And then, of course, they morph, they fight, get in the giant robot, and then the announcer's like, "Can you save the Earth? We will see." And yeah, that's kind of condensing it, but I don't know what else to really say about the plot of what's going on, because
there's not much plot. But let's get to the thing that most people will notice. The explosions.
Yes, this is basically if Michael Bay did a Sentai.
Yeah, if Michael Bay was sent back in time to the 1970s and ended up in Japan, this is probably what he would create.
Yeah, this is the first time they do the roll call with the explosions.
The colored smoke explosions, which would later become very prominent in Power Rangers.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was very prominent in Sentai.
Okay, so I was saying it was 1970s. This was actually 1980s.
Oh, I wasn't going to correct you, but that's fine. But yeah, so they do the explosions. This is also the first season they had the spandex costumes. And I know you're not a fan of the Dynaman costumes.
Well, I was watching it and I felt better about them.
Yeah, once you see things in action, it's not as bad. That's the kind of thing with Tokyuja now, is that it doesn't look so bad once you see the action. But
yeah, and one more thing about all the explosions. According to Ranger Wiki, Dynaman was originally called Kagaku Sentai, which meant gunpowder. So it was called the Gunpowder Sentai, which, quite frankly, sounds awesome.
And as we know in Gokaiger, what they're saying about Dynaman is that it's the power of explosions. That's like their power source. And they used that, I believe, in the 199 movie. All they did was pose and things blew up. And that's pretty much what's happening with Dynaman. But then again, everything explodes. The Blue Ranger has these discs, which you can tell this is definitely going off Dynaman with the rhythmic gymnastics. with their
Dynaman?
weapons. Yeah, because like they have discs and boomerang, and, well, they're going off that success with like everyday type of items. I mean, like the Red Ranger has like has swords.
Yeah,
Yes.
he dual wield swords, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, the Pink
Blue
Ranger
had a frisbee. That was kind of lame. Black, he just kept using his ninja items, right?
But he did have 2 boomerangs that he was using.
Yeah, and then Yellow had what looked like it was spike balls.
Yeah, these big club spike things. Those were pretty cool.
They're basically grenades.
Yeah, well, everything blows up in this.
Yeah, and then Pink had used her rapier.
Yeah, which she also has like roses or different flowers on it, and she can throw the flowers and they blow up. Everything they have blows up.
Basically, their entire arsenal are grenades in different casings.
Which is pretty cool when you think about it. I mean, I like how the Red Ranger does have the combat, because as I said, when he battles the prince, he does it on the horse, which is so short of a scene. I wish it was a little bit longer, but it's just like one of those epic things. Red Ranger with 2 swords battling a samurai prince on a horseback. I mean, isn't that just like stuff of legends?
Yeah, the action was really good in this episode. It was just the plot that was...
I mean, I've said it again, and I'll say it once more. They're just very quick on establishing things, and I guess they have to be. This is probably before the time of 2-parters, I guess, or hour-long episodes. And it's definitely before syndication.
Exactly.
So,
well, syndication never really doesn't work in Japan like it does here.
Yeah. Well, in any case, it obviously they were very fast about it. They established things quickly. I don't know if it is the translation that is the problem, but I definitely didn't understand a couple of things. Like, again, how are they caught? I mean, the volcano, they never linked as far as what was going on. I mean, obviously their return is like spurring geological activity, I guess.
I thought that from what I read from the subtitles, they were intentionally trying to launch the volcanoes.
And that's probably true. It's just, again, I can't really tell. But I don't know why they were kidnapping people either. It's like they give them something to do so that the Dynaman can be like worthy of the powers. They rescue people and all that. But they didn't really explain how they got to the toy store and everything, or why the scientists chose them. And that's another thing too, is like this guy's independent. He's not an organization. He's not part of the military or the UN or anything. He's just like, he's doing his own thing, which I guess the toy store is a good front for it, because heck, look at Toyman from Superman. That's pretty much his thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Raptor, do you have anything else you want to go ahead and say about Dynaman?
It was fun. I would like to see more, but it looks like that first episode was all we were going to get.
Yeah, it seems like nobody's really doing subs on Dynaman. I don't know why.
I think it just falls into that pit of the lesser-known pre-Zoo Ranger Sentais.
Possibly so. I mean, I think it has some good things going for it. I would definitely be interested in seeing the rest of the series if I could ever get my hands on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much our impressions of it. I will go ahead and put a link in there to have you guys watch it. Again, it's poor quality and bad subs, but maybe if you speak Japanese, it'll be better for you.
Yeah, or just enjoy the explosions.
Absolutely. So, Raptor, I want to thank you again for this brief overview of the Dynaman. Next time we will come back with the next series, which I believe is Bioman.
Yes, and that one's one of the more famous ones of the I shouldn't even say pre-Zoo Sentais, the pre-Jetman Sentais.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Raptor, thank you for joining me. Everybody have yourself a good day, and the tavern is now closed.